Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Britain, Canada, Australia, and Portugal formally declared recognition of a Palestinian state on Sunday ahead of the United Nations General Assembly. This is British Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
Today, to revive the hope of peace and a two-state solution, I state clearly, as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the State of Palestine.
France and several other countries are expected to recognize Palestine this week, joining more than 140 countries that now recognize a Palestinian state. Hussam Zomlot, the Palestinian ambassador to the United Kingdom, spoke on Sunday.
We realize that the recognition itself will not stop the wheels of colonization and theft of land and oppression of our people. But the question is never, why should the UK and the rest of the world recognize the State of Palestine? The question is why the UK has not recognized the State of Palestine until now. And the answer is where we are today. Because of the lack of this recognition, because of the lack of this foundational step, things have been left to fester all the way to genocide being committed in full view of the world.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded to the developments by saying a Palestinian state, quote, will not happen, unquote. Several members of the Israeli government also called for Israel to annex the occupied West Bank. We'll have more on this story later in the program. We'll go to Ramallah, to Tel Aviv, and to London. In Gaza, Israel's escalating its bombardment of Gaza City as Israel attempts to destroy the entire city. Officials in Gaza say almost 500,000 Palestinians have now been forcibly displaced from the city. Over the past day, Israel killed at least 61 people as the official death toll tops 65,300, even though the real number is expected to be far higher. Meanwhile, the Trump administration seeking to send $6 billion in new weapons to Israel, despite a recent United Nations finding Israel's committing genocide in Gaza. The proposed arms deal includes 30 Apache attack helicopters and over 3,000 infantry assault vehicles. Meanwhile, unions in Italy have launched a one-day general strike to protest Israel's war on Gaza. An Israeli airstrike in southern Lebanon killed 5 people Sunday, including 3 children from the same family along with their father. Lebanon's Prime Minister Nawaf Salam decried the attack as a massacre. Lebanese officials said 4 of the victims, including the children, were U.S. citizens. But the U.S. State Department has disputed the claim. The Israeli military acknowledged carrying out the attack, saying the target of the strike was a member of Hezbollah. The Committee to Protect Journalists says recent Israeli strikes on 2 newspaper offices in Yemen killed 31 journalists and media support workers, making it the deadliest attack on journalists anywhere in the world in 16 years. 22 journalists were also injured in the strike. CPJ said the attack was the second deadliest attack on the press ever recorded by the organization. Tens of thousands of people gathered in Arizona Sunday for a memorial for the conservative activist Charlie Kirk, assassinated September 10th while speaking at Utah Valley University. Speakers included Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, who's just become the new head of Turning Point USA.
On the cross, our Savior said, Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. That man, that young man, I forgive him.
President Trump gave a 40-minute eulogy where he called Charlie Kirk a martyr.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica.
Other speakers included Vice President J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and White House advisor Stephen Miller, who vowed to quash enemies and prevail over the forces of wickedness and evil. While the Trump administration threatened to target progressive groups after Kirk's assassination, NBC is reporting authorities have found, quote, no evidence tying the accused assassin to any left-wing groups. President Trump's escalating his attacks on press freedom and the First Amendment. On Friday, he said it should be illegal for journalists to give his administration negative coverage.
They'll take a great story and they'll make it bad. See, I think that's really illegal, personally.
Trump's comments come just days after ABC, which is owned by Disney, indefinitely suspended Jimmy Kimmel's program following Federal Communications Commission Chair Brendan Carr's threats to revoke the broadcast licenses of ABC affiliates. On Friday, a group of writers and actors rallied outside the Disney offices in Manhattan to defend free speech.
It's important for us to stand up together and to fight against censorship. The First Amendment says that the government does not have the right to come in and tell me what I can and cannot write and perform and so on. And this is the government putting its thumb on the scale.
The Pentagon's imposing new restrictions on reporters. Journalists face the risk of losing media credentials unless they sign a pledge stating they will not gather or report on any information that has not been formally authorized for release. The president of the National Press Club, Mike Balsamo, criticized the new rules, saying, quote, this is a direct assault on independent journalism at the very place where independent scrutiny matters most, the U.S. military, he said. President Trump's publicly urged Attorney General Pam Bondi to prosecute three prominent rivals, former FBI Director James Comey, New York Attorney General Letitia James, and Democratic Senator Adam Schiff. In a post on Truth Social, Trump wrote, we can't delay any longer, unquote. In related news, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Eric Siebert, resigned Friday under pressure from Trump, who publicly criticized Siebert for not bringing criminal charges against New York Attorney General Letitia James. Trump said he plans to replace Siebert with Lindsay Halligan, a White House aide who once worked as part of Trump's personal legal team. Most recently, Halligan has been leading the administration's efforts to remove what Trump has called improper ideology at the Smithsonian museums. President Trump's overhauling the H-1B visa program, which allows high-skilled workers to enter the country to work in the tech industry and other fields. On Friday, Trump signed an executive order imposing a $100,000 fee for the visa. The move set off mass confusion, with many companies ordering non-citizen employees traveling abroad to immediately return to the United States. The White House later clarified that existing visa holders would not be impacted. MSNBC has revealed Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, was recorded last year accepting a bag with $50,000 in cash from a pair of FBI agents who were posing as business executives. In exchange for the money, Homan reportedly offered to help them secure future government contracts. A bribery probe was opened, but Trump's Department of Justice recently shut down the investigation. In Chicago, 10 people were arrested in protests outside an ICE facility Friday as federal immigration agents fired pepper balls and used tear gas on the crowd. Democratic congressional candidate Kat Abu-Ghazaleh was thrown to the ground by ICE agents. People had rallied outside the facility to protest the Trump administration's Operation Midway Blitz, which has arrested nearly 550 people in a sweeping crackdown on immigrants in the city. Meanwhile, a 42-year-old man has died in ICE custody in Long Island, New York, on Thursday. According to ICE, at least 14 people have died in custody so far this year. In Louisiana, ICE prisoners are on hunger strike to protest their conditions at the infamous Angola prison. According to the Southeast Dignity Not Detention Coalition and the National Immigration Project, the prisoners are asking for access to medical and mental health care. And in California, Governor Gavin Newsom has signed a law banning law enforcement, including ICE, from wearing masks. The Trump administration has ended the U.S.'s annual report on food insecurity and hunger in America. It comes 2.5 months after Trump signed into law a tax and spending bill sharply reducing the number of Americans receiving food stamps. The U.S. Department of Agriculture said it was no longer issuing the annual hunger report, claiming, quote, the data is rife with inaccuracies, unquote. On social media, Bobby Kogan of the Center for American Progress said, quote, this follows the playbook of many non-democracies that cancel or manipulate reports that would otherwise show less than perfect news. In Sudan, a drone strike by the UAE-backed Rapid Support Forces killed at least 85 people worshiping in a mosque in Darfur Friday. The attack took place in al-Fasher, which has been under siege for more than a year as the RSF battles the Sudanese army for control of the city. There have been reports of starvation as hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced in the fighting. Sudan has been in a state of civil war since April 2023. Here's UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres sounding the alarm about the situation in Sudan.
It's horrible. So I think it's time for the Security Council to be able to take, with the agreement of all the key powers, very tough measures on Sudan.
In the Philippines, more than 200 protesters were arrested after clashes with police at an anti-corruption demonstration in the capital, Manila, Sunday. At least 131 police officers were wounded. More than 33,000 Filipinos rallied against politicians and contractors for corrupt practices in handling flood control projects. Here's Teddy Casino, the chairperson of the New Patriotic Alliance.
The people are very angry because they have been victims of flooding for all these years, and flooding has made their lives so difficult, and yet the discovery that all the billions of pesos that were supposed to help them, that were supposed to solve the problem, have ended up lining the pockets of all these corrupt politicians, government officials, and contractors.
It comes as thousands have been evacuated as a potentially catastrophic super typhoon, Ragasa, makes landfall in the north of the Philippines. Tens of thousands of protesters took to the streets across Brazil to protest a congressional bill that would make it harder to charge lawmakers for alleged crimes and even reduce penalties for individuals involved in former President Jair Bolsonaro's coup attempt. Bolsonaro was sentenced earlier this month to 27 years in prison for trying to cling to power and for hatching a plan to assassinate his opponent, the current president, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, who won the 2022 presidential election. Maria Alice Barbosa is a student in Rio de Janeiro.
I think this amnesty for Bolsonaro is ridiculous because these are people who harm Brazilian society, the Brazilian people. As citizens, we have to be here fighting, speaking out, showing our faces. People can't hide if we don't want to repeat what happened in past generations. As young people, we need to keep this in mind so that people know their rights and can fight for them.
And President Donald Trump has revealed details about a possible deal with China that would give the United States more control over the social video platform TikTok. Trump said the deal could involve the media mogul Rupert Murdoch and his son Lachlan, the tech founder Michael Dell, and Oracle's Larry Ellison, a close Trump ally who briefly passed Elon Musk as the world's richest man. China has not yet confirmed a deal has been reached. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.